Red, White, and Royal Blue, the movie, is coming out this week, so let's get into what we have to look forward to. My favorite scene from the book is the one where Alex discovers that, now that he identifies as bisexual, he appreciates queer history and culture more than he did before. Similarly, Prince Henry, who knows that he's gay but can't come out, studies queer history as a way to connect with this part of himself that he has to keep hidden. Their connections to queer culture are enhanced by their queer identities, and the reason I like this scene so much is because it demonstrates that queer identity, culture, and sensibility extend beyond the strict boundaries of romantic love. Before beginning to date, a lot of queer people dip their toes into queer culture either by spending time in queer spaces or by consuming queer media. My friends have told me about reading Rainbow Boys and watching Queer as Folk, and for me, it was Sarah Waters' novels, in which queer women from old-timey times fell in love and found their way in the world. But it wasn't just the content of the books that was queer. It was my way of engaging with it. These books showed me that someone understood exactly why I felt so sad and lonely, and this understanding gave me hope that love was possible. I asked my straight friend once if she ever felt the same way, if a love story had ever made her feel understood in a way that she hadn't thought she could be, and she had no idea what I was talking about. I have yet to meet a straight person who understands, and I think this is because it's hard to yearn for something that's ubiquitous. Being a queer person influences how one engages with the world, regardless of whether one dates or even whom one dates. I was single for most of grad school, but I still foregrounded queer history in my research that I worked on with queer colleagues. I learned queer theory and the methodologies necessary to study the queer past in a world that tries to obscure it. Similarly, there's a stereotype that bisexual women who are married to men don't live a queer life. I've heard these women's identities and marriages likened to the girls who won't stop talking about the semester they spent in Barcelona like it was 6 years ago. However, their relationship to queerness is more akin to when your family is from Barcelona and you don't speak Spanish very well, but you're still very much of that culture. Their bisexual identity still plays a role in their life regarding their interests, politics, the media they consume, who their friends are. None of this changes depending on if they're dating or whom they marry. Because queerness can contribute in such a large way to someone's overall identity, any attempt to obscure it is a purely subtractive process. One can pretend not to be queer, but it's a lot harder to pretend to be straight. For example, a relative of mine recently asked me if I ever read romance, and I said yes, only to realize that there is no straight answer to that question. If I hadn't been out, I would have struggled because I haven't magically read more straight books just because I can't talk about Red, White, and Royal Blue. Pretending not to be queer makes a person just a little bit less spontaneous, less funny, fewer stories to tell, fewer friends to introduce you to, fewer hobbies to talk about. This is why I appreciate the fact that Prince Henry has this strong connection to queerness and queer culture that lies outside of romance. This mode of engagement is an aspect of queer identity that isn't often portrayed in stories, but it's one that many queer people, for a variety of reasons, recognize from their own experience. Thank you all for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.